Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers
with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
And the only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good dump.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family.
I can do this all day.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to the mansion. I am your host, your ghost host.
I can't have a better intro other than that, Ernesto. So welcome, foolish mortals, to Box Office Bingers.
So you're so clever, Matthew.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a minute since I saw you, so it's very nice to hear that from you. How everyone, to another episode of Box Office Bingers. If you haven't tell by this lovely intro, we are reviewing a very special ghostly movie for you guys this week. Ernesto, tell the listeners what we are reviewing this week.
We are reviewing the 2023 Haunted Mansion, starring Lakeith Stanfield, Rosario Dawson, Owen Wilson, Tiffany Haddish, Danny DeVito, Chase Dillon, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jared Leto. Directed by Justin Simien, who directed Dear White People. Written by Kay Dipple. I think I said that right. The Heat. Wrote The Heat, 2016 Ghostbusters, Snatched, and multiple episodes of Parks and Recreation. But this wouldn't be a Disney episode without the one and only Alice O'Toole. Alice, welcome back to the show.
Hey!
So glad to have you.
Thanks for this spooky intro.
Yes.
Excited to be here? Question mark.
No, it's exciting. So. It's exciting.
Okay.
We're excited you're here.
I love your background. I know we talked about this before we recorded, but I still love it. I feel like you did it just for us. You say you didn't, but I don't believe you.
I didn't buy these for me, but no, they're duct taped behind me just for you. So you're welcome. Yeah. And not that I wasn't excited to be here. I'm always excited to be here, but I'm a little freaked out by, is a ghost going to follow me home when I'm already? Are they here? Are they? I don't know.
I guess that's something we're going to be talking about later in the show, because a lot of ghosts, we're following a lot of people home I keep saying I want to say the Haunted Mansion. It's not. There's no the in there.
Haunted Mansion.
It's just Haunted Mansion. Yeah, I had it always bothers me. There's no the there. Or the Haunted Mansion, but there's no the. So don't say it. I'm gonna stop saying it.
All right.
Whatever. Alice, has been a while. How have you been? We haven't. Last time we spoke with you, we were not too favorable when we did Lightyear.
Yeah, I'm really glad to not have an animated one this time. So we're already headed in a great direction. No, I've been good. Been punching buttons and waking up early and doing the dream, living the dream.
That's right.
So, yeah, I've been well.
Fantastic. So anyone who's been listening for a while, they know that we typically bring Alice on because your love of Disney and more importantly the theme park world. I know we typically go back and forth on talking about various theme park stuff. So I'm very interested and curious on your thoughts on that. And also, did you also watch? I'm sure you have the Eddie Murphy version way back when too.
So I prepared for this. So last weekend I watched probably half of Muppet Haunted Mansion, and then I rewatched in the background the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion. I can see a lot of similarities and differences and yada yada. Wasn't originally a fan of Eddie Murphy's version, but we'll get into it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Ooh,
all right, so I know, right? All right, before we dive into our spoiler review of Haunted Mansion, of course, we're going to be diving into a fun segment we like to call Whatcha Watchin. What have you been watching?
So I don't know why I'm watching this. And it's called Beef, and it's on Netflix.
Oh my God.
We've watched Beef.
Have you seen Beef? Okay, so I'm sorry. I'm more than halfway through, but I wouldn't say I'm enjoying it, but I want to finish out the story. And it's like, I must actually be liking it, but it's not a typical go-to for me. But I was intrigued because it has the guy from The Walking Dead, Steven
Yeun.
Something.
Yeah.
Steven Yeun. I think he's great. So seeing him in a totally different role, I don't think I've seen him in anything else, was intriguing. And yeah, I like it. I think the first episode is such a good hard hitter, and it's kind of flatlined a little bit for me, but I need to finish the story. I think I'm 3 episodes away from finishing it off. So
it's wild. It is a wild show.
Yeah. It's been a good one.
Yeah, we talked about that a while ago, and I think Ernesto and I, if I'm not mistaken, we were like pretty decisive on the ending of it all, if I'm not mistaken.
If I remember correctly, you liked the ending a little bit more than I did.
I think that sounds about right.
For me, the lead up, like everything leading up to that show was great. Like everything in the finale was great. There was one point in the finale where I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. It's still good though. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, as you know, Alice, there's a lot of crazy shit that happens in that show.
There is, yeah, and but it keeps you coming back. And like I said, I don't know why I'm watching this. It's not my typical, but I'm here for it.
It's a good story. It's definitely a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then on the total lighter side of life, I just finished off the M show.
Okay.
Which took a lot because it was a lot of puppetry, and I love a good Muppet. But what took a lot wasn't the puppets; it was the actors. So you've got Taj Mowry in it, which I haven't seen since I was 10 years old, who was this Tia and Tamara's sister brother.
Okay.
But he's all grown up now, and I think he was in Smart Guy. So I haven't seen him since he was a baby. He's still kind of a baby. He hasn't grown very as far as his acting credentials.
It's been 20 years, but so far still a baby.
He's still holding strong to not very much. And then it has Lily, her name, and she was on YouTube, and then she had the talk show. She's like the lead. And if they made this show without any humans and it was just puppets, I would have zoomed through it. It was the story for the puppets was hilarious, and it was something that the Muppets needed to make. So I'm really glad that they made it. Not so much for the actors in it, though.
Isn't the Muppets pretty known for having like pretty decent cameos in their shows or movies? And
I wish that the live cameos, but they were leads. So then you're balancing between the two, and I don't think that really works. But I would much rather them pop in and out. That would be funny and fine. But they carry the story, and it's okay. It's all right. I would rewatch a couple up in the future, but I can't imagine it getting a season 2.
As a fan, you're enjoying it, but it doesn't sound like you're enjoying it that much.
I'm done with it. I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done with the story. I think that you can watch when they really drew out something that could have been an hour long.
Wow.
But it was cute. It was funny. I had laugh out loud moments, but it wasn't the humans. It was the puppets. So
right.
There's that.
Are you a fan of more recent Muppets movies?
Okay, so the first one I really enjoyed. I thought even the soundtrack was great. I thought everything about that movie was well done. The new Disney age of Muppets that you see today, which makes them a little bit more and not so much the Muppet Show Muppets that are the OGs. But the second one I thought was trash. And again, leading on a story that doesn't need to happen. I don't even remember. I think Kermit was a spy or something, and you don't know that.
I think he was in a prison, and then like there was someone who looked like Kermit, and then he was impersonating Kermit, swap spots
and
or something.
that's when you walk out of the theater. So that's yeah. But the first one was great. They should have left it as. And it was a good revival. Yeah,
that was a good movie. I'll agree with you there. I'm a Muppet. I'm a man of a Muppet type of deal.
I thought you were just gonna confess that you were. You said I'm a Muppet. I thought it was it all makes sense now.
We get it.
This is why we all get along. We're Muppets. We're not. Okay.
What else you got?
Let me think. There's one called Heartstopper, and my niece recommended it to me, and I thought it would be the complete opposite of what I turned on. And it's very much to me, watered down Degrassi. But it came from a junior novel that also is a comic book form that she also really enjoys. And it's not like for young kids. It's drama, coming of age drama. But she described it as being cute. And I don't think I would describe it as being cute. I think it's a coming of age story for young teens that I wound up watching a good 4 episodes of. So
was it just like way more adult than what you anticipated?
Way more just like life situation moments. It's about a teenage boy who comes out of the closet, but the guy that he likes hasn't. So then it spirals and the saga continues. But more drama than cute, but I'm happy. I'm happy it's out there because it has quite a following from what I've heard.
Okay. Yeah. I think it just came in for a season 2, if I'm not mistaken. I think I remember putting on new to streaming that 2 just dropped. So it's definitely popular. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Ernesto, what about you?
Well, as you know, I was on vacation, so I don't have very much. But I do have a few things. So we're still watching Yellowstone, and I'm happy to say we've powered through 5 seasons. We have 4 episodes left.
Wow.
We've got 4 episodes left.
And
then it's only
that's insane.
What it is that they only released half of season 5. And then we're waiting. The other half is waiting pending the writer strike and all the nonsense that's going on. But damn, the writing on that show is just so good. I really like where the show is leading, and I'm excited to get into the prequels. But I think once we finish the 5 seasons, we're gonna take a pause because there's so many other good shows that I'm left behind on. I haven't watched The Bear season 2, which I've heard nothing but incredible things. I want to watch the series finale of Barry, which is another show that we watch. It's just this is a problem with when I introduce my wife to really good shows. Is it now? Then it gets put on the schedule of shit that we have to wait. It's program we have to wait
together or not at all.
Yeah, exactly. That's love. That's true love.
Well, the point because there's even you guys were watching Yellowstone, so that's the show right now.
Mm-hmm.
But because when you sign up for a long show that has a lot of seasons and you're behind, then it does feel like you're missing out on a lot. So that's why I always tend to I hit up that's 1 or 2 seasons or newer shows, because I feel like that if I latch on to a show that has multiple seasons and they're hour-long multiple season shows, it's I'm going to be stuck here all day. I'm not going to get. I'm going to be so behind right now, like what you're feeling right now.
I made a rookie mistake.
I still want to watch those shows. Well, it's not really a rookie mistake. He's hey, we're committed to finishing this first before we do anything else.
Yeah. Well, we did that, so we're almost done. And Yellowstone is great. The writing on it is good. What I have been watching by myself though is I did pick back up The Righteous Gemstones, which is the HBO Max show, which is Danny McBride's show. It's Danny McBride, John Goodman. What is the other guy's name? It's hilarious. Oh. It's laugh out loud funny. It's not like Ted Lasso heartwarming funny. It's just wacky. This is the one with Adam Devine, Danny McBride, Eddie Patterson, and where is Baby Billy, the guy who plays Walton Goggins. That guy is so funny. Yeah, that guy's hilarious. It's pretty out there. But if you know Danny McBride and if you've seen any of his work from before, it's like very on par with everything else that he's ever done. So they just finished the 3rd season. I've got 1 episode left. So I'm kind of excited. I'm excited to finish watching that. But they
just renewed it for a 4th season too.
I think the 4th might be the last. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that's true, but I think I remember reading something about that. Either way, I'm excited for it. But it was weird because like season 2 really dropped off for me. Season 1 was hilarious, but season 3 kind of definitely brought it back for me.
That's good.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, so I rewatched the Meg, the Shark Attack movie, because the kids wanted to go see the Meg 2. So the
kids? The kids wanted to see the Meg?
Yeah.
Too?
My older, obviously not the babies, Matthew. talking about my 2 older ones. Because when we were in North Carolina, like they watched Jaws 2, like, and actually my son Edward, who's turning 10, he loves like fake monster movies and stuff like that. He loves it. He's like, I just love like fake monsters, like sharks and Shark Attack. He's like, but not like Shark Week. Like, he's like, I like the fake stuff. But it's just funny that he recognizes that.
But I don't want a shark to really attack me. I just wanted to, look at it attacking someone.
Yeah.
On a big screen.
So we rewatched the Meg.
I was gonna say, weren't you guys like on the lake? Like,
yeah.
All for your
but
vacation?
We came back. Hey, but my key to vacation, you have to come back at least a day or 2 early, so you have time at home to get your shit in order. Like get yourself ready to go back to work.
Okay.
Like, wash clothes if you need to wash clothes. Like, I try not to push it. Like, I shouldn't be coming back from vacation and then the next day going to work. Like, I know a lot of people do it, but to me, it just stresses me out.
It's
like,
tough.
It's hard. Like, I just prefer not to do it. So I prefer to put in a buffer day. So I actually this trip I had like two or 3 buffer days. So on one of them we took them to go. We watched the Meg when we were one of the nights we were up there. We were visiting family. We just sat in the room and we watched it. And then we went to the theater and watched the Meg 2. And I have to say, it was actually enjoyable. Like, it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not expecting like Oppenheimer level movie making. Like, as far as like a giant shark monster movie that's kind of it's like really walks that science fiction line where it's like this like could be true, but then they pull out some weird science shit that's like, that's fucking fake. Like, that's no way there's no way that could be real. Like, there's one part where they're under, I don't know if you've seen the first one, but they go into what's called the thermocline. So it's like a subset of the ocean. It's like below the ocean floor, the freezing ocean floor is like this, where this mass abyss of like mythical ancient monsters live. So
like under the lake that you did water sports on throughout your entire vacation.
Yeah, I mean this is like 25,000 feet under the water. So already they're in suits.
Perfect.
They have these suits that they have to wear, and they're in these submersibles. It was kind of weird, given the submersible thing that happened last month, to see like this, that them not trying to pull the movie or do anything like that, because that's a good point. The movie actually featured an implosion during one of the scenes, not from the submersible, but from like their suit. Like, they had like this exosuit, so they have to wear these exosuits underwater. But then one point of the film, Jason Statham has to save them, so he free swims with nothing on, No gear, no suit. Like if he's swimming in a pool, just swimming 25,000 feet under the water. They're like, he can do it because he has a deviated septum. So he won't black out before he makes it to the other side. I was like, I'm in the theater. I'm like, okay. It's like,
he's like, that's what we're going with.
All right. He's like, all right, that's what we're going with. You know what? Whatever. It's a movie about a giant monster shark that eats people. Although some of the kill scenes that they have they were pretty well done. Like there's one point where you're like in the shark's mouth and then it opens and it's like gobbling people up. It's like like you're seeing them go in. Like I don't know. It was an enjoyable monster movie. Like a lot of good. Was it what?
Was it better than the first Meg?
I don't know if it's better, but it's definitely like on par. Like they're about at the same level. I think maybe the second one maybe has like a little bit up on the first one. I feel like the first one is more about like more of like the Jaws feel where it's like you're scared of the thing, but you don't see the thing all the time. And there isn't a lot of that. There's a lot of subplot lines in this one too, but there was definitely more focus on like the shark kills and like giving us those shark kill scenes. But it was good. I actually enjoyed it. It was a guilty pleasure. You know, I'm not one for stupid movies, but this was a good one. It was a good stupid movie.
Okay. Fair enough.
Let's see. What else do I have? Besides the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion, that's all I got. Okay.
You also watched Eddie Murphy. Oh, I feel like I'm not prepared.
Matthew, I am disappointed in you. You're usually the one. You're usually the one to do it too.
I know. I feel like no, not today.
I feel like maybe you're more prepared than you think you are because maybe they're a little bit more similar than you remember. And
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're pretty similar.
Yeah. They're pretty similar.
Are you serious? Okay,
yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. Okay, because now I thought there would be two. Anyway, moving on. We'll talk. I watched a film called Polite Society, which is on Peacock. And it follows a British Pakistani teenager, and she wants to be a stunt woman, but it doesn't quite fit in her family and like her family ideals, and so it kind of follows that storyline, and it's very much in the vein of Kick-Ass, Ernesto. And so I was having a little fun with it. There's a lot of like these quirky moments, a lot of action moments in it. There's one point of the movie where her sister's married and she doesn't trust the husband and his family, so she decides to go on this wedding heist to kind of kidnap her sister on the day of the wedding. And it's actually and they did a really good job. The score is actually really impressive. I had a good time watching it. Briefly, I saw like one preview for it like a couple months ago when it was in the theater. I was watching another movie, I forgot what it was. But I saw the trailer for it. I was like, oh, this looks fun. And then Peacock, and I was like, oh, okay. You know, I'll give it a shot. And I was thoroughly surprised of what I got. So I recommend that. If you like Kick-Ass, then I think this has this very similar feel to it. I also watched Oppenheimer again.
What?
I went to the theater. Yeah, I saw it again.
And? Did you enjoy it? Was it enjoyable the second time?
I will say this.
That means no.
I told you if you remember what I said last week, that it's like you need to watch a Christopher Nolan movie twice to really get it, and I walked out of that movie loving it the second time.
Really?
Like I absolutely second time. Yeah. I didn't like, for me it was like the light bulb went in my head. It's like I felt like a smarter person. Like going is like, oh yes, I know this. I know that. Yes, that's all that happened in his life. And then like it just clicked for me the second time I watched it, and I was really able to invest into the story again after like watching it the first time, after doing some research on it, after watching a few videos on it that explained a few things, and just seeing a few things online that after out. So it was like 2 weeks after we saw Oppenheimer, so having it sit for that long and reading other people's reviews and other things about his life, going into it then with that much knowledge and that much insight, this checks out completely. So
okay, so
yeah,
question,
100% loved it.
question for you on that. What were your takeaways upon your second viewing? Like, what was there something during the movie that you didn't catch the first time that you're like, oh shit, like good takeaways from it?
Yeah, there was a lot of verbiage in the first of the movie. I was really paying attention to everything that was happening with Oppenheimer and Einstein in the beginning of the movie, because again, that was something that was going to be coming into the end of the movie as well. Mm-hmm. So I was paying more attention to what Robbie Downey Jr. was actually saying in the movie, like actually paying attention to like some of the things he was saying, because some of the things just kind of went over my head, and then now actually like seeing the outcome of the film at the beginning, I was like, oh wow, they kind of teased certain things very early in the movie that I just caught on now. I think it just flowed better overall for me, and it was like, yeah, it's a 3-hour movie, but a quick watch for me. I don't know, it just goes down pretty easy. And the music really hits the second time around. I loved it the first time, but then when you're actually understanding the dialogue and the intensity of the scene and the weight that it holds, the music is really adding to it. And I also just walk out of there. It's like, damn, I said this already, but Robbie Downey's good. He's gonna win. I mean, even look at his performance, I'm like,
even for sound design, like you were just mentioning, like the score and like just the intentional use and lack of sound during certain key points of the film, like just really makes that film hit harder on a bunch of different levels.
Yeah, I watched it at the Regal IMAX, which is, with the really big screen here on iDrive. And I was like, I mean, they had, I think compared to our screen, Ernesto, obviously it was bigger, but they have, I think, just a couple more speakers because it's a bigger theater. So like when the big boom happens, it is loud. I was like I knew it was coming, but it still startled me. Like when the speakers work today, guys. They especially with a lot of intense moment when you hear the score. It's really well. Yeah, so I think I enjoyed it a lot more upon a second. I was not disappointed second time around. So again, now I loved it. Now I understand the hype, and even so much to Oppenheimer. It's they extended the IMAX 7mm showing through the end of August.
Yeah,
which it was supposed to end. It was supposed to have a run, and then it took on another 3 weeks after that because all of those showings kept selling out. Ernesto, when I went to the theater 2 weeks after we saw the movie, that IMAX theater on a Friday night packed.
That's wild.
I was shocked
for a biopic.
For a 3-hour biopic.
Yeah,
absolutely. So that was a fun second watch. And then I know we were just talking about setting yourself a long binge. But I did that myself, and I am almost 2 seasons. I'm 4 episodes away of finishing season 2.
I've been wanting to watch that.
Yeah, I will say this. I know it gets better. I was told it gets better, but like the first, and I feel like part of the reason why I'm powering through it, it's like it's a kid show in the beginning. So there's a lot of like we gotta get some life lessons in there. We gotta build the characters. There's not a lot of like big strokes. We're doing like small little, a little bit annoying at first, but until you get to know them and they start maturing a little bit. And so the first season was all like that. And I'm just hitting next. Let's just keep going.
Along.
Like that was the first 15 episodes. Trucking along, yeah. It helps that it's each, so I can get through them pretty quickly. But yeah, so far they have some pretty good episodes in there, and I'm about to wrap up season 2. I heard it gets better. Like season 3 and 4 is where it starts getting to the good stuff. So that part I'm looking for. But it was just kind of just trucking along. But I'm enjoying it so far. Doing all this prep for Ahsoka that comes out later this month on Plus. So basically calling it season 5 of Star Wars Rebels, because a lot of characters from Rebels are going to be in it, and they're continuing the storyline from Rebels in Ahsoka. So like for a show I've never, Ahsoka looks really cool. I feel like I gotta start it. So
But
we're trucking along on that, Ernesto.
You don't need to watch Clone Wars to enjoy Rebels and or Ahsoka, do you? Like if I wanted to do this, like if I wanted to watch Ahsoka, do I need to watch Clone Wars and Rebels or just Rebels?
I don't.
Or do you know?
Think it hurts. I think to watch Clone Wars. I don't think it's necessary viewing. You learn a lot about a few things in the Clone Wars. You learn a lot about the Jedi, a lot about what was happening around that time, and there are then sprinkled episodes of Ahsoka because Ahsoka's Anakin Skywalker's apprentice. So you can basically see how their relationship is built throughout 7 seasons.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But there are also it's a lot of
especially
episodes.
that one, because that one's got like
Mm-hmm.
that's got like 23 episodes per season. At least the first couple seasons, right?
Yeah, it's because it used to be on Cartoon Network, and so there's 5 seasons, and they were like, they were long, and then Netflix picked up the 6th season after it left. Cartoony was close to buying them, or they bought them, and then years later they did like a 12. I think it was either 11 episodes to wrap up the 7th season and kind of get us to the beginning and the end. So it was a beautiful wrap up. I really enjoyed it. But like you learn in there. But I'm sure if you look it up, Ernesto, they're probably like key episodes. Excuse me. There's a lot of the Clone Wars that are like, it's almost like that show is like has these either 2 to 4 episode arcs that may or may not connect in future episodes. So like you have like this particular troopers, and then you have this particular story about Anakin, and this particular story about Ahsoka, and then this particular story about Yoda, and like all of this is happening around the Clone Wars, but they're not necessarily tied together for one big story. Mm-hmm. Whereas Rebels is a continuation from one episode to the next.
Okay.
So yeah, I think if you look it up online, you can probably find the episodes you need to watch, and then go on from there. But anyway, that's all I've been watching. And so now we're going to be diving into our spoiler review, which I feel like I'm not prepared for at this point, based on what you guys were saying. Our spoiler review of thank you. Our spoiler review of Haunted Mansion, the 2023 Haunted Mansion. And Alice will start with thoughts on the film, as well as I guess the Eddie Murphy version and stuff like that.
Oh boy. Okay. So I don't feel like this was the Haunted Mansion. Like this was Hatbox Ghost the movie. That was what we were dealing with. We weren't so much focusing on the Gracie Manor itself. We weren't diving into the majority of the ghosts that are actually inside of the mansion. I don't want to start off too negatively, but I'm being very harsh. I enjoyed the film. But I don't. There's a lot that they could have done that they didn't do, and instead I feel like they grabbed on to Hatbox Ghost, which is a cool character. Don't get me wrong; he's a key component of this film. Totally was absent for a long time. I think that he disappeared from the attraction after it even opened. So the fact that he's just coming back now, and I think it's actually that he's coming when we're recording this, that he's coming back to Magic Kingdom. I was shocked that he was such a central component of this film. With that being said, I thought it was very similar to the Eddie Murphy version in that it had the quirkiness, it had the silliness, but it's hard to make a family horror film, family thriller. It definitely wasn't horror, but something thrilling that's made for all ages. I think it's weird to have one tiny child carry a lot of the plot point, versus in the Eddie Murphy version, they had 2. So it was kind of like, okay, it's not as awkward, versus like a similarity would be in the last Indiana Jones movie that just came out. They had the kid plane. I felt like the kid in this movie was flying in the metaphorical plane, and he didn't. What it was really doing? There were so many characters in this movie, and they're all fresh. And I felt like I wanted to see the ghosts and more about the things that we know and love about the classic attraction as a fan. So just learning the new characters and having that all come together is a lot. And in my memory, it's getting blurred now that I've seen the Eddie Murphy version of what is new and what is old, because in both you've got all these characters and they're not all fair. And the familiar ones sort of get drowned out by the newbies, if that makes sense. And then, I mean, originally there were two main designers for Haunted Mansion, and one wanted it to be silly and one wanted it to be scary. So when you're in that immersive environment on the ride, I think it works. I think it works beautifully, but I don't think that that translates to film in either version very well. But was it beautiful? Yes. Was times? Sure. I wouldn't say scary. I wouldn't say scary. I'd say maybe spooky. But the all-star cast that was in it, I thought, okay, there's a lot. Maybe you didn't need so many, because Danny DeVito, he's hilarious. But what was he playing? I remember him now after seeing it as he was playing Danny DeVito. He was playing himself. So Jamie Lee Curtis, I thought, took a very Melissa McCarthy, Little Mermaid-esque way of going about her character, where I think she could have been the quirky, funny style, but instead she, I thought, was great at her part. I thought that she took it very seriously. Her accent could have used a little bit of work, but all in all, I thought that she was solid and wanted to play the part that she signed up for. I liked it. I wouldn't say that if I resort back to it and I say, okay, how do I feel about the Eddie Murphy version? I'd say I hated it. In an instant, I'd say it was terrible. This one, I'd say it was okay. It was good. It was fine. But I'm not going to carry the key plot that they built just for this film with me. Like the lead, what was his name?
Lakeith Stanfield.
Yes, Lakeith. I feel like he had a beautiful story, and I feel like it was overshadowed by all of the other characters, and it sort of was drowned out, where I would love to see him do more and actually be in, I know he was in Get Out, but what else he's been in. I want to see him do scary stuff. I want to see him have his full potential. I think this was a step in sort of a side direction for him. So
Ernesto?
So I agree with a lot with what Alice says. Like, it was, and this is, I'm kind of on the same level with both movies. They're both like, they're okay. They're fine. Like, this one, and I think you hit the nail on the head. All these characters were basically playing themselves. Tiffany Haddish, like, she was basically playing herself. Owen Wilson was 100% playing himself. And like Rosario Dawson, she was just like smiling half of the movie. Like, she's just standing there grinning half of the movie. The movie for me was just, it was very, forgettable. Is probably the best way to put it. You know, I don't know. It was like there, like, I didn't really feel much. I felt like they gave Lakeith Stanfield, like, gave him this super serious backstory, and like, oh, what do you get? Oh, the cat's name is Tater Tot.
Yeah.
Oh, like your wife, because you love her. Oh, what a coincidence.
And she loved Tater Tot.
And she loved Tater Tot.
The end.
The end. That's the closing shot of the movie. Whereas, and in the Eddie Murphy one, the closing shot is like the family's in the car, they're driving away, and you get a little bit of the Haunted Mansion feel because you have the singing ghost strapped to the back of the car, and they sing the movie away. So I felt like there was more homage to the ride in the first movie than there was in this one.
Really? I'm actually.
I mean, I definitely feel like that it was there in both of them, especially in the score of both films. But I felt like it was a little bit stronger in the Eddie Murphy one.
I agree in a sense of they have to pick a side. Both the silly and the, I want to make this a horror film. And originally, wasn't it supposed to be Guillermo del Toro?
Yes.
Is that his name?
And then he dropped off.
Right. So, and then he did, which I feel like they still held on to aspects that he's put into other projects, like the Scary Stories movie that been phenomenal, that I thought personally was just a drop in the bucket. And I really love those. So to me, I was super hyped for that, and it really let me down. And do scary, but it's hard to do that when people are already so connected to the lore that existed before. So I agree with Ernesto. I think that just choose a side, and the Eddie Murphy one definitely went for the fans elements, but with a sense of funniness. This one was so much in one movie.
Yeah. I will say I did like when in the scene leading up to getting Madame Leota's head out of the trunk, like we go to the attic scene. Like for me, like I felt like I was on the ride in the attic. Like to me, for me, I love the way that whole scene played out. To me, that like plucked right from the ride and put in the movie.
Sure.
I mean, shortly after that scene, they literally went on a chair.
Yeah.
Through the courtyard. I think I remember reading that was in fact an homage to.
I'm sure.
The Doom Buggies.
Oh, I'm sure.
Which was great. Yeah. That was perfect. I
feel like I'm very interested in hearing both of you. Like I said, the Eddie Murphy version, so I'm a little bit at disadvantage of actually comparing it because it was years since I saw the Eddie Murphy version. So I can't really come to it now. I'm not even going to try. But as far as just the movie that I saw, and actually I saw it twice, and I didn't know how I felt about it the first time. I went to go. I got a little bit more perspective, and I feel like I'm in the same boat. I feel like this movie is with this movie than the both of you. I think I like it a little bit more than you guys did. But I will say that this movie's good in parts, but not as a whole, because I think you guys are pretty good by saying that there was a lot of characters in here, and a lot of them didn't always have their moment to shine. And then you have the question of, then why were you here? We weren't really focused on you. And then the things that I really latched onto was all the spookiness that was happening in the house, all the little nods that I was catching. I really loved the mansion. I feel like that really came alive, and when like these just the very little moments that like even like when I'm watching the movie, I can like there was one scene in the beginning which was kind of funny where they were like Rosario Dawson were like jumping over like Lakeith Stanfield came in and he was like, I don't see anything, and his camera and he's taking fake photos, and like they went to jump the hallway because like I guess they had to do that prior, and behind them in that scene was the murals of the two people, the brothers, who shoot themselves. And for me, I'm not sure if that was going to come back at it, but just seeing that there's like, oh, that's cool. Even the stretchy room when they were there and setting up camp for a while. Oh, I know that. I know something better happen here. I'm gonna be pretty pissed if it's not, because like they did a really good job of like, I was enjoying looking at all the Easter eggs before they became like prominent moments in the movie. And I feel like I took a lot of like joy for me. Even Megan, who I watched it with the first time, she was kind of like, look the thing. And like yeah, I had a lot of fun kind of discovering it, and also discovering more time. I honestly, which is kind of silly to say, that the fact that a ghost will follow you home, I didn't pick that up until the second time, and I feel like that's something that's like I should have noticed that the first time. I was like, oh yeah, the Mariner followed him home just like the ride, and so it's almost like, oh yes.
But now was it just like the ride? Because you didn't get the hitchhiking ghost, all of the ghosts into hitchhiking ghosts. So and why would you choose him of all of the characters people know and love? I thought that was a little bit out there. I do appreciate that they followed that story through and you got to see him go to the dock, and I thought that was appreciable, but it was a little odd to me.
I do agree with you. I feel like there are more iconic moments. Even the three characters that are behind you right now that played such a small role in the movie that I was almost waiting for.
Yes.
But again, we gave more time to the Mariner, who I was like, is that even on the?
I know.
Is that even on the ride? I don't even know. Do you know if that painting on the ride?
I think it's in the first hallway when you're entering the mansion. Once you're in the Doom buggy and you're entering, I think there is a shipwreck to your right.
Okay.
On one of the glowing, flashy ones. But other than that, no. And that's how I sort of felt about Hatbox as well. It's like, we're going for these. What are we doing? Why are we not grasping for the more renowned characters? I guess.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. When I saw the Hitchhiking Ghost, to me, those are your most iconic characters in the Haunted Mansion, and the fact that they were literally resorted to as if you're riding the attraction as fast as they go in the Doom buggy, that's as fast as you see them in the movie.
Yep.
It's like, really? It's like even the iconic. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I do remember there being a larger presence of like the graveyard in the Eddie Murphy version of Haunted Mansion, like a graveyard presence. And I feel like we didn't really get any of that in this movie. And I feel like in the graveyard scene on the attraction, it's such an iconic moment because we were literally going through the house and it's like this big reveal of all these ghosts materializing and the songs going, and we see like the heads singing and all that stuff, the fat lady singing at the end, like all those moments, and then leading into the Hitchhiker's Ghost. So like it was placed well in the movie, but it didn't really hold any weight to it because at that point it's more of a funny, silly moment of the Haunted Mansion, whereas in the movie it was more of a serious tone, because he was like chasing over what he thought his wife, and then it wasn't. It was more like a dream, if I'm not mistaken.
But did I miss it? Did we see the singing ghost in the 2023 version?
I don't even remember. See, that's where I'm saying it's getting blurred because they incorporated a lot of the same components. I feel like the overall components were better in this one, even down to just the comical aspects. Like in the hallway, the only time I remember even seeing the bride was when they were all a little funny, silly moment, and then I don't know, it wasn't as spectacular as I thought it would be. So it's blurred.
Yeah, that I felt like, especially bride moment, like she's again an iconic part of the attraction. I feel like if there was any moment to be serious, it would be her moments, because I never found her character being lighthearted. It's just all like, oh, this woman means business. You mess with her, your head gets chopped off, right? Yeah. And so it was great. Like obviously when we were going in the attic, that was like, okay, we're gonna see the bride up there. I didn't expect to see Madame Leota like in a chest, but I feel like that scene didn't really lead to anything, unfortunately. It was just like a little bit silly as he was trying to evade her. And then the next time we see her, she's like in these weird, silly moments with a mob of other ghosts that didn't really land well. And I was like, why are we giving this character like anything really? She was there more than the Hitchhiking Ghost, but they just resorted to as glorified cameos instead of story pieces, which I feel like I was expecting a little bit. Still fun to see them incorporated into a story that I didn't mind as much. Like I think the story went really well. Honestly, the one thing I loved about this movie the most was that we technically got to see of the Haunted Mansion. Yeah. And that I wasn't expecting at all. I was like, oh shit, that's Magic Kingdom's version, baby. I know that one. And then I thought that was really clever to incorporate that into the Hatbox story as well. It's like there was a reason why we had to go there. It could have been anything. They made it that. And even following into it, Winona Ryder was like, it almost felt like that this, like the real mansion is in Disneyland, but the theme park version of it is in Magic Kingdom. And so when we get to see the Magic Kingdom version, we see Ryder. She has a little name tag. I believe it said Pat.
Okay.
Which from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard that if a cast member ID the spare one is Pat.
Or Chris.
Oh, I was always I was Chris. Yeah. I was Chris from Orlando for a long time. Like half of my time working in the park from Orlando. Or if I did something and I was like, could get in trouble for that, Chris from Orlando came out of the pocket.
Yep.
So
it's either Chris or Pat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pat, yeah. I heard that. So when I saw Pat there and I read about it, I was like, oh, that's kind of clever. Even to the point where they were like breaking into, like they were like kind of going away from the tour. They released some stanchions, and it was like a bat. And I was like, oh, that's exactly from the ride. It's like these little berries that they have in the attraction. So like, there's all those like little moments where I feel like, if anything else that I took away from this movie was that I really enjoyed the little moments, those little nods to the attraction that, from my understanding, the Eddie Murphy version never did. Like even just going as small as the wallpaper of like the purple wallpaper, that I really just thought it was a joy watching it. But to you guys' point, now I'm just happy with the environment. So if anything, the production design was great on the.
Absolutely.
But now we're getting into the story of it all, and I was like, I've seen it twice now, and it's not memorable.
No.
I can't confidently say that I remember every part of that movie. Also seeing it twice, and it's just like, I 100% agree with you. Danny DeVito, for me, was
a complete waste. Before I forget to go off your point of it wasn't memorable, I think that had they followed the attraction's track, for lack of better terms, the way that it goes through the mansion, the way that things develop, like these instances are happening and ghosts are following people home before Madame Leota has even been summoned. So that's the whole purpose of the ride, is that entire room. You don't see a ghost. You see little lightning bolts, or you see a statue turn sideways, but you don't see a ghostly figure until she summons them. And they strayed away from that. And the hitchhiking ghosts that even Rosario Dawson and her son's in the movie's character home, I don't know who they were. And it almost looked like I feel like they took a bunch of characters and they said, this is what we have, shook it up in a bag, and we're like, oh, this is perfect. We don't know who they are. But adding the special moments, like you were saying, with the tiny details, it's strange to me how they had so many really cool, fan appreciated tiny details in the visuals, but not in what we already know. And I think it would have been easy had they just followed the actual track of the attraction to the end.
That's a good point. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was pretty well said. Yeah, very much so. And like the story, just like even character Tiffany Haddish's characters, there was a lot that was going on that we didn't really get to know that well. They focused a lot on Lakeith Stanfield, Rosario Dawson, and her son. I think Chase Dillon is his name, and that was pretty much it. The rest were just like these kooky characters that were along for the journey. They gave some love to Owen Wilson a little bit, Tiffany Haddish, but yeah, Danny DeVito. I mean, he literally drove in there being Danny DeVito and was like, "I'm getting in that house, y'all," and then they pushed him out. I was like, "What is your purpose besides?" Like he had the knowledge as well as providing them the blueprints of the mansion, and that's about it.
His wife was just in the Barbie movie, so I feel like it was kind of like, well, the house is empty. Guess I should do something too.
Who's his wife?
I mean,
who's he married to?
Rhea Perlman, the one at the end when Barbie.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you.
His wife.
Yeah,
his wife from Matilda. Did you see?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh. I did not know that they were.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
That's her.
The more you know.
He's gonna be on Broadway in the fall. So spoiler alert.
Really?
If you want to see him in the flesh, he and his daughter have a show coming up. So he had like a little gap in his schedule, and I think he's like, okay, I guess this will be fine.
Yeah, sure. Disney wants me again. That's fine. Is it Hercules yet? No. Which one? I'll come back for Mansion. That's fine.
I've been to Disney. I can do that. I went on that one.
Which character? Oh, a new character? Oh, that's
myself?
fine.
Oh, I can play.
I can. Kooky old man.
That's me all day.
That's every
got
day.
it.
That's all day. But yeah, I think another scene again is more kind of going to your point of the fan appreciated tiny details. Is like the stretching, and the characters on the walls or the paintings on the wall were kind of giving them advice of how to get out. And it's so funny because when the scene started, there was like quicksand and an alligator and like an axe available or something along those lines. And I actually at the end of the movie, I turned to Megan and was like, isn't it so weird that they had like all those random things in the bottom of that stretchy room? And I was like, dynamite and alligators, like that's kind of weird, right? She goes, that's the painting, dummy. And I go, oh yes, that's right.
But that just goes to show not the entire audience isn't going to get that. Yeah. And that was such an impactful scene. It was like, what are we in Jumanji? So if you didn't know that, things don't fit. And it's hard to divide it and say, okay, this is either for the fans or this is just a new concept. And I feel like with the emotional aspects that they drew in and just the scene, I mean, having it in New Orleans to begin with, which obviously pulls from the Disneyland attraction, just changing the complete tone and vibe, making it very somber and emotional with the lead character and his deceased wife. It wasn't enough. It was completely overshadowed by the entire rest of the film. And I feel like, yes, they brought it home, but when they brought it home in very quick spurts. It was like, I have a line and a half of dialogue, and this is going to resolve this massive plot that I've dropped in front of you. And I don't know if that was enough for any of the roles.
I mean, honestly, aside from Lakeith Stanfield, they really didn't give anybody a moment to have any, like, because they weren't given a story. It was almost like everyone was there for the mission because they all had to be there, because if they left the mansion, a ghost would follow them home and it would be miserable. So we have to work together to resolve this mission, but we really didn't get much of anything outside that. Aside from like Dan DeVito, we got nothing. The Lakeith Stanfield, we got the son was able to get some courage. Tiffany Haddish was able to get some moments for her to, like, I am a medium, I guess. Like, she was a little bit doubt for her, but then when she saw Jamie Lee Curtis, she's like, you're my hero, we can do this together type of feel. And then Owen Wilson was like, I'm not a priest. I'm like, we know. All right, let's move on. Wow. But I kind of want to go back to the Halfbacks Ghost. I feel like that it was honestly a character that I knew he was going to be in, but just Yoda, I thought Jamie Lee Curtis played like a small role-ish in the movie, where I was very much surprised of how much, like, what was his name, Crump?
Sure, close.
Yeah, yeah. I was surprised of how much he was involved in the movie, how much he was now the villain of the movie. It took me the second go-round to actually understand. Or maybe, but there was a moment the first time I fell asleep, so now I was up the second time for all of it. So that helped me. That helped me understand a little bit more now that I say that out loud. Like, oh, okay, I see how we got here, and he became evil. The 999 ghosts that were haunting the area. So okay, we need one more. That was tied into the story a little bit in a more devious way. And I think that, to me, that really worked for me. I think I liked everything for him as a villain. Really worked. I just feel like the ending didn't land. Like we kind of all crowded around him in the courtyard, and we were like, we did it, y'all. You're defeated.
And it reminded me, if we bring it to the very last scene, it was like they all came back together, and it was a party, and they were happy, and they were in the dining room dancing, and everyone was magically reunited and back together. And I thought it was so ironic that Winona Ryder was in it, because that was very much so the ending of Beetlejuice. That was also very much the ending of Casper, which, any sort of like quirky, it was a ghost story, but now we're still here somehow story. They did it. And they did it, I think, because they knew it worked. But it didn't, I don't care. You know, I don't care that you are all together. You were all together in the last scene in the graveyard. So I don't know. It was so much was missing, but at the same time, so much was there. It was like I was drowning in what could have been, not what they executed.
A lot of potential.
I think you made a lot of potential. It does feel like you made a really good point about like having that happy ending, because like wasn't the point of like we're trapped here, and they're like, okay, yeah, you are trapped here, and now you're free. Yeah, but I kind of like it here now because he's gone. It's like, all right, but nobody wanted to leave. Like nobody.
Yeah.
Like it just. I don't think the ending landed for me. Either. It's like I.
No, I was just gonna say it's an interesting difference between the Eddie Murphy version and this one, because at the end of Eddie Murphy version, they do become free, but then they talk about it. They all go to heaven. They all walk into the light, and like everybody leaves the house. Like that's part of like the big thing at the end is like they release everybody from the house. Whereas this one, and it kind of feels like the whole movie, and hearing you talk about it, is just like a big promotion for the ride.
Yeah. No, and I agree. And I was so disappointed, because if you're going to put that loved lore of a character back where he originally was, which was the attic, and instead they're going to dump him before Madame Leota even appears, which sort of goes along more with the movie. And I could be wrong about this, but I think that when the Eddie Murphy version came out, they had plans to have an Eddie Murphy animatronic in there, and thank God they did not.
That would have been
but this, to me, although it's very different, it kind of is along the promotional line, which I don't think is going to go very far. I don't feel like they did a lot to promote this film, and I mean, just look at the box office; it says a lot.
Yeah, and you know, I was about to say that myself. The box office number did not reflect it. It opened right here. Let's see. Yep, it opened to third in the box office. It was like a victim of Barbenheimer.
Yeah.
And it only had $24.6 million domestically, but was even more depressing. It's $33 million worldwide. So people internationally really did not care about this movie because 24 million of that, 24 out of the 33 was here in the U.S. So that's what only. Okay, now you get it. So only 11. No, is that 9 million? Yeah, 9 million internationally. And now it's now 2 weeks in, and it just didn't. Like it's just lost now. It's just not even close.
I think I saw here is a budget of 150 million, but so far it's only made 63. So it hasn't even made its budget back yet.
Not even close. Not even close. I mean, it's definitely that's not great. And it's for a movie that had, like you said, it had so much potential in it. And I had a lot of high hopes, mainly because of Justin Simeon. I really enjoyed Dear White People. I felt like he was going to have something to say in this movie. And because I feel like his other movies had like a little bit of a message to it. I thought the beginning of the movie, I felt going to get that. Like to me, like we were very New Orleans vibe. Like we kind of transitioned into a New Year's, and then we didn't kind of like, because I thought it was kind of very spooky. We kind of transitioned to the classic Haunted Mansion theme. And then I was like, okay, so this is what we're doing. And then we never really went for that. I feel like in a way we started with maybe a Justin Simeon movie, but we landed on Disney.
Yeah.
Like we got the Disney ending that I was like, okay, we're kind of slipping a little bit. So yeah, I feel like for me, like the biggest thing was the ending. But again, now I'm just looking through my notes, like there were the scary trees that were in there. Again,
those were great.
Those were great. Dan Levy was in the movie. A very quick cameo for some reason that he was in that movie. But there was a small scene where they were kind of sneaking away and he was like performing for the tour. On the second viewing, I caught that he was playing Small World on the piano. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I will say this. As compared to other, I should say this lightly, other Disney attraction live action movies.
Yeah.
Like I think I still had more fun watching this one than I would say the Jungle Cruise movie with Dwayne Johnson.
I disagree, but I think
Okay.
that it's such a. I was going to bring that up as well, and I think that it's such a wide range that we have because we're going from the bottom of the barrel at Country Bears. Nothing could ever be worse than Country Bears. You could draw a flip book and it wouldn't be as bad as Country Bears.
It's a fair assessment.
So the nightmare fuel that is, you can only go up from there. But what kind of quality are we getting saying that? And then the top obviously being Pirates of the Caribbean.
Of course.
Right.
But the same designers designed Haunted Mansion as they did Pirates of the Caribbean. So you're telling me that their work can be interpreted such different ways and has been put out to us in such different ways. And I almost wonder why. So, like, why did we set these boundaries? I feel like Jungle Cruise kind of fell right in the middle, and I'd say this was trailing, in my opinion, right after Jungle Cruise. But I don't know how you're ever going to be pirates, and I don't know with what we have left attraction wise how it's possible. So
unless they do a Space Mountain movie.
Yeah, they could. I mean, they kind of tried with Tomorrowland, but that was something completely different. Not really based on the attraction itself, or like the land, I should say. But I feel like there are some inspirations of Tomorrowland. But I feel like that right now they're working on a Magic Kingdom show, and I feel like that could rival some potential there on being based off of the theme park, but also be something really good. And I think if we learned anything from Barbie and Oppenheimer was that under the hands of great creators, you can turn anything, like even like a 3-hour biopic about the guy who made the atomic bomb, or a 2-hour movie that advertises a doll. That literally in the movie says that if you love Barbie, if you hate Barbie or if you love Barbie, you're gonna like this movie. And like that's the advertising done by great creators. You can get a great product out of it and have huge successes for it. I'm not saying that Justin Simien isn't a great creator, but I feel like that Christopher Nolan and Greta Gerwig had a lot of their movie in the movie they wanted to make. Like, they had very zero influence in the studio, and the studio allowed them to make the movie they wanted to make, where I feel like in this case, I think Justin Simien is a talented director, and I think all these actors are talented, but I feel like if you have other forces in there, maybe like the studio kind of chipping in, then maybe it just doesn't land as well because we wanted a happy ending. And I feel like, to your point, Alice, we have a movie that doesn't know if it wants to be scary, which is not. They want to be spooky, but also in the vein of the attraction, we want to be a little silly.
Yeah.
And we kind of toyed that line back and forth, and to okay reception. But with that, final thoughts, Alice.
I liked it. I guess that would be my final thought. I liked it. Will I watch it again? I would watch it over the Eddie Murphy version, but I don't think I'm going to watch it again for 10 years. I feel like if it's on, I'll say, oh yeah, there it is. I've seen that before. But it carried no sentimental heavy value for me. So.
Ernesto?
I kind of feel the same way. Although, Matt, to answer your question, I agree with Alice. I think that, to me, this is like just under Jungle Cruise. And maybe just because I really like The Rock and Emily Blunt. And I liked what their chemistry and what they brought to it. Whereas this, I felt like it was just like a hodgepodge. It was just a lot of people. There was just a lot going on. And then I do feel like it was like an advertisement for the ride as opposed to the movie honoring how great the ride already is, if that makes any sense. So would I see it again? I mean, if it's on in the background.
Yeah.
Serious, like really sad about his wife. And then what a turn. Like literally You go from one scene to the next. One scene, he's an astrophysicist, and then literally the next scene with no disclaimer or no explanation, all of a sudden he's a tour guide, and you don't know why. So you're just like, why is he a tour guide? Was he lying about being I literally thought, until you learn later, I thought that he was just lying about being an astrophysicist to get with the girl. I was like, oh, so wait, is that her? And then, oh no, that's not what happened. So I, like, to me, the writing just could have been a lot better.
And I think you made a really good point about that transition, because there was really no explanation there, and it took a while to get to that point. And I feel like that we had such a good setup to, like, okay, so his wife passed away. So, like, how is that going to affect the movie? I feel like if there was going to be a heartstrings moment, like a teary-eyed moment, an emotional moment, it would be with that. And it never came up. Was. And I feel like it never came up. It was almost like there was a moment where Tiffany Haddish was, summoning up one of the ghosts. I think it was the one who owns the manor. And he wrote down he's like, oh my God, you can actually talk to ghosts. I have one for you. Can you look up like my wife? And I was like, okay, this is the start of it. And then after that, she's like, she's not here. And he goes, all right, well, I tried.
Moving on.
Moving on. And then they had a conversation and was like, it's probably a good thing because, that means that she moved on. He's like, yeah, you're right. All right, we have a mission to do, guys. Let's
get out of this house.
We gotta keep going. Let's get out of here. And then we never went back to it again. And I almost feel like that the moment where it should have went back was at the climax of the movie, where you're defeating the villain at that point. Which, remind me what happened. Like, how did they?
They burned his hat.
They
burned a piece of his hat. Tiffany Haddish did.
But also, I don't know. I feel like it sort of ties into it. I saw an interview with Jamie Lee Curtis, and she said that her interpretation, or like what was supposed to be interpretation of the film, was that there's all these different characters and you gain a little bit from everybody. And along the way, it's sort of like if they can do it, I can do it too motto. And that is supposed to be where the inspiration of the film is drawn from. Basically, other people's forthrightness and achievements can also drive you to your goal. And I guess that at the end of the film, it's like, well, okay, what happened? They all made it out of the mansion, but it again blurs. Okay, we learned from each other, and the kid was strong, and the guy was strong, and Madame Leota was being her bad self, but then they learned from each other. But again, how did the movie end? We don't have that cohesive answer. It's just all this Wizard of Oz blur, but Dorothy never makes it home.
Right.
So
because then
but like, how'd she get there? I don't know.
Yeah. And then there's a moment where there's like, okay, well, now we've found this connection with ghosts, and so now we're perfectly party for them, because now it's almost like, and it kind of, now that I think about it, it kind of negates what Tiffany Haddish is like. They're here because they have to be, and they're kind of trapped here, but now they have the option to go, and they're like, nah, we kind of like it here. And it's like, but really, like, you could leave now. Like, I feel like that's the whole point of it. And then you can actually have this house to yourself and be whatever. But yeah, and I do feel like they kind of squandered on that moment, because they try to tie it back at the end a little bit with, I think, I'm not sure if it was tater tot or nugget or some type of food, like an appetizer or some sort, or whatever.
Of course.
Yeah, but either way, they brought the cat back into play into this, and that was supposed to be a heartfelt moment. It's like, oh, she's watching me. This is like the ghost wink is what Tiffany Haddish called it. And I feel like it was almost too late for that.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I see, like, you try to bring it back home, but no, it didn't work.
Why was it a cat? Why we didn't talk about cats the whole film? So I agree.
It could have been a different token for sure. But yeah, I think I like this movie a little bit more than you guys did. And I feel like for me, it's just more appreciation for those little tiny moments that I liked from the attraction. There was even one moment where Lakeith Stanfield was like, they were hiding, and so, like, the ghosts were hiding, and so, like, he was passing over his flashlight. There's a painting in the attraction where it's like, a woman like laying down on a sofa, and then like the lightning strikes, and there's like she's in like cheetah print or something, sort of like cat like suit, yeah. And so they did that, like the light flashed over, you saw the cat suit, and then back into the normal. It's like, okay, that's very clever. Is very in the moment of the attraction. I like that a lot. I liked a lot of little moments in there that I feel like maybe is like upsetting some of the other stuff, like a lot of all the other faults in the movie. But I can't really remember a lot of the story elements, and the characters are not really important. It's more the details you put into it was more impressive than the story itself. So
I feel like that's what they wanted. I feel like that's at the end of it, when they looked at the final product, it was okay. I mean, we've got the details, we've got the fans done. We did it.
Yeah, and I feel like this thing that lacked, which is Ernesto's not his biggest thing, is the story.
Yeah,
as like the story just didn't 100% land, because maybe you're focusing too much on the fan service of the attraction that you kind of failed to give us some some stuff with like to give us like a well-rounded story. And really, we're not asking for much. I feel like they could have done. Like we were almost there, we just weren't quite there. So like if you would have paid a little bit more attention to the story, I think they could have got us there in a way.
Agreed.
Yeah. But anyway, there you go. That's our spoiler review of Haunted Mansion. Not quite the Disney attraction movie that we were expecting, but it's out there in the ether. So now there's 2 Haunted Mansion movies, a Jungle Cruise. There's the Country Bear Jamborees that apparently on Earth, according to Alice, and 5 Pirates movies, with 3 of them being really good and 2 just all right. Yeah. Amen. Alice, thank you very much for joining us again. It's always fun to talk Disney with you.
You guys too. Thanks for having me.
If you want more from us, you can always find us on all of our social media channels, on Instagram at boxoffice_bingers, our Facebook and TikTok and Threads page at boxofficebingers, and our Twitter /X, maybe more X than Twitter now these days. It's X now, which I don't know. I can't get it. It's just such a stupid name. X, we on that too, at boxofficebinger without the S. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for listening to us talk about movies. We got something for next week, Ernesto? I think we solidified it.
We are going to be reviewing the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie, the Seth Rogen animated film. I'm hearing good things, so I'm pretty excited. I've heard good things about the soundtrack and that it's got a good story, so I'm here for it. And I like the animation. Animation looks cool.
I think the animation looks gorgeous. I feel like if any, like I like Seth Rogen, creator. I think he's also responsible for The Boys. So the fact that he's now working on this movie, and they worked a long time on this movie, and I feel like they took some inspiration out of Spider-Verse, because like, you know what people really liked? Messy animation.
They do.
And
we're going to do. As long as you can make messy look pretty.
Yes, exactly. And that's what you look at this, and like honestly, like on paper it's like, oh, a new animated Turtles movie, sure, whatever. But then you look at it, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, hold up, what do we have here? We kind of give Spider-Verse a run for its money. I'm not saying that, I haven't seen the movie, but we'll talk about that next week. Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I really am. It's hit like in the 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, so yeah, I think it's like the best. I think it's the highest rated Ninja Turtles movie. So it's pretty good. Pretty good. So yeah, come back next week for more movie fun. You're not going to regret it. Thank you for all of you who listen to us just talk about movies each and every week. We really do appreciate it. Come back next week. You're not going to regret it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
Been Ernesto Santos. See ya.